been a while since I've been back here to the graveyard, so we're taking a little tour around campus with Coach Burson and the family, so I recognize a lot of the stuff, but as you probably know, this place has definitely changed since I left here, at the beginning of '98, so but what an honor, to be a part of this program, which Coach Burson has done a phenomenal job. Obviously, he was the person that started this program here, and to be a part of this program has been special. Even looking at the former other players that we know well, very good group of guys, as well as soccer players. So for Coach Burson to ask me with Mr. Tanner to come back here and be honored with this jersey retirement was a great honor. This is something that I've had some pinnacle times in my career and things that I won't forget, and this is definitely at the top of those lists. So this is something that my son who's here, my oldest daughter is here, my wife, my mom, my aunt, some brother and sister is going to be here. So it's not just me getting to celebrate this, but a lot of important people that were important in my life growing up and coming to this field before it was this stadium. So I think it's very special, not only for myself, but a lot of people involved.
When was the last time you were in town before this?
I know we came, me and Josh Wolf came at one time. It had to be 10 years ago at least. I think the Roos was still here. They might have had one of these buildings up. So, it's been, I would say, probably at least 10 years.
Your best memories of your playing days here?
I always remember this one game that's so funny. It was against Clemson, and I was just explaining to my son how we used to have the kickboard right here, and this is where all the alumni would be. But one time when we played Clemson, I don't even know how many people. It's probably 5,000 or 6,000 people. The stands were full. They were on top of the fence there. Probably had 5 rows of people outside the line, and that was back when you could stand on the sidelines. And just the support we had from our alumni, and really getting to see what a true rivalry was in college. But I always remember that game against Clemson, which we ended up winning that night. But to see the support, not only from the alumni, but just the fans in general, coming from high school into college and having 6,000 people at your game was pretty spectacular.
You've accomplished a lot in your career. Where does this kind of stack up for you think?
Like I said earlier, I've had some pinnacle moments in my life where, things that I always say that, hey, I'm never going to forget this, no matter how old I get. And this is definitely up at the top of that list with that. I always say that I'll never forget, scoring in a World Cup and playing in that World Cup. And like I said, to be honored by my alma mater, with this honor, and being that first guy, hopefully with a lot more to come, in behind, is really, really special. So it's definitely at the top of the list there for sure.
What were the emotions like when you found out about it, and have you thought about what it's going to be like?
I was actually at my office, and I like when I'm on the phone, I'm always walking around. So I went outside. I was talking to Coach Burson and Mr. Tanner, and I got a little teary-eyed, a little choked up because, like I said, there's a lot of time. This is where I really grew up. Came from a boy to living on my own, to trying to become a man and live on my own. But it also was a situation where I had to learn responsibility of being able to go between school, sports, which is not always the easiest as far as time constraints. But it was a huge transition in my life to be able to really put me on that platform to take that next step into professional sports. So it was definitely a very heartfelt moment, and I was very proud.
Has your son been able to see old photos of you this week at all?
Yeah, all my kids always laugh at me because they're like, "This can't be Dad. He actually has hair." So it's pretty funny, but he's enjoying it. He always tells me that he wants to grow up and play soccer here as well, and maybe at another school in California. I'm not sure. So that's where we live now. But they get to enjoy the old times. It's unfortunate that they didn't get to see a lot of games. They were him and his the oldest sister. I have 4 children. They were real little right before I retired, but he remembers a couple games here and there. But we watch a lot of soccer together. He has a lot of pictures of me in his room, things of that sort. So he's a proud son, which makes me proud.
What are you doing these days?
So I'm actually in software. So I wanted just to be honest with you, be what I call normal, a normal 9 to 5, which you guys are probably going, what in the world's wrong with this guy? But yeah, I've been, traveling, going since, I was a little kid. And, when I was coaching at the Chicago Fire as the assistant for those 2 years, and then the head coach gets fired and they get rid of everybody, gives you a different retrospect of how you don't really have control. As a player, I did, and I know it was up to me whether I stayed with that team or not. But when you're talking about coaching, it's a different ballgame. So I looked at my children and said I don't want to change their life, and if I stay in sports, professional sports, I'm going to have to move at some point and affect my children's lives as far as taking them away from their family that they have around there, their friends, and having to change in school. So I was like, I love my life as far as soccer. So let's get settled down somewhere where these kids are going to get to grow up in an area and enjoy their friends. So that's why I wanted that Monday through Friday kind of job. And I know I got my Saturdays to go watch their soccer games, their softball games. So I made that decision, and it was a tough decision. But at the same time, I got 5 other people in my life that it's more important than just continuing with soccer.
Sometimes when athletes come back for these kind of honors, it's a whole new regime and it's a lot of things new. Is it cool to have the coach you had here still here?
It's amazing. The fact that he's been able to have this longevity and the success he's had for so many years. Like I said, he started this program, I believe it was back in the late 70s, 78 if I'm not mistaken. And the fact that he's still here, it's you don't see this too often. I put him even though it's college level, but you look at him as like one of the Bill Belichick's, the guys that can always make something out of what he's got. And I think Coach Burson has done a great job of building this program and not only building it but keeping it at an elite level to where it's got to go. I mean, there's always going to be peaks and valleys through any organization and whatnot. And yeah, is he going to be number 1 or the top 5 every year? No, that's impossible to do at this level. But the fact that you're still getting constantly good teams, good players here, and the level that he's built this team. Now that there's a conference, which didn't have a conference when I played, but to have all this sport growing, and I mean, just look at the facilities. I mean, I missed the kickboard. Now behind it, you got an unbelievable state-of-the-art locker room with facilities. So to see the university continue to support what Mark Burson's tried to really accomplish here, in the last 40 plus years is amazing to see.
You still play?
No, I can barely walk. His knees are bone on bone. So the only really time I get out and play is if I get out with my son and kick around with him. We'll be out here a little bit tomorrow just to kick around. But yeah, if I get going too much, I'll be bedridden for a couple of weeks.
Anything else for Clint?